Greetings and salutations. We're back to talk about more films that are in a way that we have looked back at, especially in this holiday season. And this time, we're doing a double feature. We're looking at both Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2, the new batch. So, before we get in, let's go ahead and check out Gremlins, the first one. So what was the first Gremlins about? Well, it follows a young guy named Billy who receives a strange creature as a pet, which spawns after creatures that transform into aggressive and imp-like creatures that wreak havoc on Billy's hometown during Christmas Eve. Billy's dad got it from a shopping in Chinatown, and he's basically said, hey, don't feed them after dark, after midnight, and don't get them wet, and all that. Wait, don't get them wet, and don't feed them after midnight, because, they will start to become more animalistic. And, before we get into it too far of it, did you know that this is one of the films, along with Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, that went and helped create the PG-13 rating? And looking back, one of the things that makes this film rather great is, a lot of things, honestly. Whether it's, the idea of it, it's a creature comedy horror film on Christmas. And, you have things how, adorable Gizmo is.
You're kidding. Good night, Gizmo. I'll see you in the morning.
And yes, even for back then, especially this film, yes, there are some the effects for the Mogwai, or the other Gremlins, are really good. You really feel yeah, you can actually think that's actually there. That's not a computer effect. And I honestly really like how, looking back at it, yes, the film has a bit of sense of humor, because Billy has a aggressive neighbor who is wanting his dog Barney, and then basically the Gremlins are causing havoc, and they end up reversing her chair, which goes upwards and upwards, and eventually she flies out of her home. Yeah, this film has a bit of a sense of humor about itself, the times when they are singing carolers and all that.
Warned you, friend!
And yes, it has a sense of humor for itself, but at the same time, when you think about it, this is how all can be a pretty violent film too, for PG-13 that is. Whether it is when Billy's mom puts one of the creatures in the microwave. And yes, so yeah, that is one great effect, but at the same time, one effect that you really wouldn't be expecting, especially this is an 80s film, like when we think about the 80s, they are relatively a lot more like punchy, and like the things that they were able to get away with. Like a sequence in which Life is basically trying to shoot Billy in the film. Yeah, like he's basically just like, it's like saying oof, but at the same time, like the ending sequence in which Stripe is, you know, like being killed off, it's really good. The effect for it is really good. It's like, yeah, it's practical effects have always been trumped, you know, effect, you know, like modern, like, you know, CGI, and yeah, it's really kind of a sense of fun to it, and the film also, the music for this film was done by Jerry Goldsmith, and he was actually played a character in it, but not, you know, a main character. But I think, like, say two characters that you really wouldn't think for this film are there. It's the character of Gerald Hopkins, played by Judge Reinhold, or also the character of, like, you know, Murray Futterman, played by Dick Miller. You know, they're characters that are always great, especially the character of Kate, who is Billy's girlfriend.
It was snowing outside. The house was freezing, so I went to try to light up the fire, and that's when I noticed the smell. The firemen came and broke through the chimney top, and me and Mom were expecting them to pull out a dead cat or a bird, and instead they pulled out my father.
Yeah, while she was his girlfriend in the second film. And yeah, like, looking back, this is a film that's fun as a sense of, you know, self-awareness, not self-awareness, but it has great effects. It's a classic. It helped, you know, like, continue film in a way.
I just call him Gizmo. He seems to like it.
You know, punch things upwards instead of just saying, okay, we can just go PG, R. But they get Gremlins 2, the new batch. It was a bit of a different story, and that compared to the first one, it had a sense of balance to itself. Yes, like, yeah, this one's also PG-13, but it has more of a slapsticky cartoonish to itself. Yeah, it was also directed by Joe Dante as well. But what was this one about? Well, Gizmo, he multiplies in a skyscraper after his owner, Mr. Wing, passes away, and the new creatures pose a serious threat to the city because, you know, if they get out into New York, they could cause a lot of mishap. And yes, compared to the first one, this one has, it seems like, say, Gizmo has a lot more moments of just being adorable. But at the same time, you know, Gizmo's always been a cute character, and so yes, like, we can say this film has some, it's trying to be more cartoony and all that. At the same time, we can also say, yes, it has a bit of moments that one could say scary, like the sequence in which it has the spider gremlin. Or or heck, even the, like, the winged gremlin, that's pretty scary. However, there are ones that are just kind of goofy. Like, it has the intelligent gremlin. That one is, like, say, he becomes, like, almost, like, say, one of the antagonists. At the same time, I think it's pretty interesting in the fact that one of them is on the main poster, which is him smoking a cigar.
I mean, you take a look at this fellow here. Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized.
And I did kind of think one of them that is just, like, say, what is the seductive gremlin? And you're thinking, like, say, well, we know, but even by today's internet standards, this one's definitely someone's fetish. And yeah, this film has a bit of funness to it, like whether it's the goofy gremlin, like the Mogwai or whatever. When you first see him, he's like I think his expression form was supposed to be Daffy Duck, and like he's throwing because Kate thinks that hey, this is Gizmo, I need to get home, and I do think that compared to the first film, yeah, this film can have a bit more jokes. Like, say there's what was it, the Hulk in this film, and yeah, it's kind of like, say,
this theater now. Okay, you guys, listen up. People paid good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth. Do I have to come up there myself? Do you think the Grimsters can stand up to the Hulkster? Well, if I were you, I'd run the rest of Gremlins too, right now. Sorry, folks. It won't happen again.
Okay. However, like, say, yeah, I think this film has a bit of funness to it, like, because Robert Picardo, who plays in the film, yeah, I've been watching on Star Trek, so I didn't realize this was him when I first saw this film. At the same time, I do think it's kind of funny how Christopher Lee plays a doctor named Dr. Cushing Catheter. Peter Cushing. And all that. Yeah, the film has a bit of self-humor about itself. And the character of Murray Futterman returns, played by Dick Miller. When you can never go wrong with Dick Miller. He is always a good luck charm that is always great to have in your film. I do like how the character of Billy Peltzer, how even when he is trying to be taken advantage of by, like, say, one of the ladies at work, because she's here, so I say, I'm going to take advantage of him. I think in the case of Marla, because, like, say, Case, I say, oh, Billy, you are in trouble, and all that. And Billy's just trying to say, like, no, I'm not trying to do anything. I promise. Because, like, Marley, she is really just trying to take advantage of Billy. At least I think the character was what he's trying to do. But yeah, I think some of the the gremlin effects for some are good. They look great. It's entertaining. Is it as great as the first film, like, when it comes to the humorous aspects? I don't really think so, unless you have, like, the moment where, like, the gremlin has the gun. Yes, it's funny. At least I think so. I think it's entertaining. But that's just how I feel about this one. See you next time.